The glass doors of Biblos swung open with a hush, and the scent of cardamom and grilled sumac wrapped around me like a second skin. Kareem's hand rested on the small of my back, just enough pressure to suggest ownership, not affection. I let him guide me through the velvet and bronze interior of the Manhattan restaurant, past private booths and glittering chandeliers, until we reached the long mahogany table in the back. His family was already seated, men in tailored suits, women in muted silk. All eyes turned. Mine smiled back. Layla Navarro, Kareem announced with a nod to Omar Farouk, his top investor. She's learning the ropes, bright girl. I nodded politely. It's a pleasure. But my inner voice whispered, girl. Not partner. Not strategist. Girl. My dress was black, long-sleeved, respectful. Subtle enough to blend in, sharp enough to remind them I belonged in this room. I let my fingers rest lightly on the menu, eyes grazing each Arabic dish name like an old friend. I'd eaten most of them in Dara street stalls. I could pronounce each with perfect inflection. But I didn't. Not yet. I took my seat at the far end, beside Kareem's cousin Amamira. Her eyes flicked over me, shoes, jewelry, the silver cuff at my wrist. I let my face relax into something soft. Something obedient. The small talk started, then shifted. Arabic. Kareem's aunt, thin-lipped and lacquered, nodded at me and said, Helwa, bas thakila. Pretty, but dense. Then came the cousin, too soft, he said, she'll melt like labna in heat. Laughter rose like steam. I sipped my tea. Earl Grey. Not Arabic. I liked the contradiction. Note. Note. Record. Every word slid into the quiet reel playing in my mind. They assumed I didn't understand. That was my greatest advantage. Omar Farouk watched me with quiet interest. His gaze lingered, not quite leering, not quite innocent. A test? Or recognition? I lowered my eyes just enough to feed the illusion. Then came the slip. A joke, about a Qatari minister's daughter, spoke of her poor English and worse fashion sense. I laughed. Quiet. Natural. Amamira froze mid-sip. She turned. Her voice shifted to English. So, Layla, how do you like the food? I looked at her, slow and pleasant. Delicious. I love sumac. The word hung there, sumac, too specific. Too fluent. Her eyes narrowed. You do? I tilted my head, as if recalling a recipe on Pinterest. Something about it just lingers. Keep it vague. Keep it soft. Never confirm. Never deny. I smiled again, this time not with my lips. The table moved on, but the current had shifted. They still laughed, but less freely. Someone poured more wine. The servers placed mezzi and lamb in heavy bowls across the table. Then Kareem leaned in, chuckling in Arabic. She's sweet. But nothing like the last one. At least she stayed fit. His mother added without missing a beat, and she knew her place. The shame didn't land in my cheeks. It landed in my spine. Cold. Sharp. I kept my hands folded, my chin upright. But in my mind, I slid their words onto a shelf. Alphabetized by intent. A moment later, hummus passed down the table. Kareem's sister held the platter too long, then jerked her wrist. A spill. Warm paste sloshed against the side of my dress. Oh, she said, all teeth. Oops. Silence hovered like fog. I lifted my napkin slowly, dabbed the stain, and then, just as calmly, turned to her. Mafish mushkala, I said evenly. Accidents happen. When hands tremble from lies. The Arabic was perfect. Crisp. Merciless. The table went still. Omar's hand stopped midair. Amamira's grip on her glass tightened. Kareem, distracted by a notification on his phone, didn't register a thing. I smiled again. Light. Controlled. I reached for my tea, now lukewarm. Excuse me, I said softly, standing. My voice was silk, but my spine was steel. I walked toward the restroom, heels soundless on the tiled floor. In the mirror, I dabbed the stain one more time, then slipped into the far stall. The door closed behind me with a muted click. I reached for the silver earring. Tapped once. A red light blinked. Transmission live. The stall door closed behind me like a vault. I slid the silver earring off my lobe and twisted its base. The red light blinked twice, then steady. Recording resumed. Every word, every slur, every joke, captured. I opened my clutch, peeled back the silk lining, and pulled out the second phone. Matte black. No logos. I tapped in the encryption key with muscle memory and uploaded the files to James Patel's server. I wasn't just here for dinner. They thought I came to impress. I came to collect. The battery light on the earring flickered orange. I bit down a curse. If it died, the night's proof went with it. I checked my reflection, still composed, and fished out a backup cell battery from the lining of my clutch. Everything about tonight had been staged. My dress. My smile. Even my silence. My fingers swiped open a secure note, takedown protocol, Kareem Al-Haddad. The bullet points were brutal in their clarity. Gather intel. Confirm harassment pattern. Track internal corruption leads. Final strike, SEC-ready documentation. Evelyn Ross's latest message blinked at the top. One clean strike. SEC is watching. Don't improvise. I closed my eyes for one breath. Kareem wasn't just arrogant. He was dangerous. He had built his ascent by silencing dissent. Nadia Carter had the hospital bills to prove it. I wasn't the first woman marked for display. I just might be the last. His power came from silence. Mine would come from exposure. I tapped into the archive, Omar Farouk's investments. Dubious wire transfers. Altered timestamps. Deleted files with ghost footprints. Kareem's signature was everywhere. Martinez Global's board wasn't just blind, they were complicit. That's why I was here. Not to ask. To dismantle. And I would. But I'd do it without flinching. A ping snapped me out of thought. James. We found something. Internal breach. Mole inside Martinez, access logs linked to exec floor. Could be watching you. Proceed tight. My blood chilled. I read the message twice. A mole. Not just outside risk. Internal sabotage. I checked the footage from my bracelet cam, so far, clean. But the margin for error had evaporated. I remembered what Nadia whispered in the hospital, he makes women disappear. He'll do it again. No. Not this time. I leaned against the stall wall, heart pounding steady. They count on panic, I muttered. I count data. I stepped out to the sink. Cold water. 1 breath. 2. Then the door opened. Amamira entered like a question with no punctuation. Her heels clicked once, twice. Then silence. She moved to the sink beside me. Didn't look over. As I reached for my compact, my second phone slipped from my hand. It clattered to the tile, screen flashing its encryption screen. She glanced down. Saw it. But said nothing. Instead, she dabbed her lipstick and stared straight ahead. You pronounce sumac like a native, she said. I looked at her through the mirror. Living abroad teaches you more than words. Our eyes locked. Neither blinked. She smiled, not warm, not cold. Just. Exact. Then she turned, pulled a paper towel with grace, and left without another word. I stood there a beat longer, then gathered my things. She knew. Or she guessed. Either way, she hadn't exposed me. Yet. The restaurant hallway was quieter than before. Laughter echoed from the main room. Music hummed low. My steps were smooth, precise. I approached the table with my expression reset. As I slid back into my seat, I whispered under my breath. Time to test their eyes, not just their ears. The elevator doors closed behind me with a hiss that felt too loud. My apartment smelled like jasmine and printer toner, my 2 addictions. I set my bag down on the entry bench with precision, undid the tiny clasps from each heel like they were grenades, then peeled the earrings from my ears. The left one blinked, one final time, before fading into black. Its job was done. I poured a glass of red wine and placed the earring in the charging dish next to my laptop. The files had already synced. Folder name, Phase 1. Subfolder, Verbal Hostility, Table A. I hit play. Camel's back. Fold under heat like labna. I let the audio run as I walked barefoot toward the window. Manhattan blinked in defiance out there, all noise and neon. I remembered a different city, a different laugh. The same tone. Casual. Arrogant. Certain I didn't understand. The wine swirled in my glass like a clock winding backward. They taught me the language that would one day destroy them, I whispered. 8 years ago, it had started with a different kind of dinner. Back then, I was 25, and still believed fluency should be hidden if you wanted to get ahead. I worked for an American logistics firm in Dubai, smiled during meetings, took notes I wasn't supposed to understand, and played dumb with professional charm. My Arabic accent was flawless. I made sure no one knew that. That's when Amir found me. He was smooth. Western educated. Spoke of equity and merging worlds. He wore Calvin Klein suits and prayed 5 times a day, always just in time to be seen doing it. We were engaged within 6 months. He promised equality. What he wanted was camouflage. A Western-facing bride to pitch his modern edge to investors in Europe. I didn't realize it until his uncle pulled me aside one night after dinner. You speak well, he said. For foreign flesh. The wedding was called off the next week. They said it was my decision. It wasn't. Amir said his family felt I'd never adapt to tradition. I never told them I'd understood every word they whispered behind my back. That night, I stood outside our shared condo and told myself one truth: I'd never let the soft tone of cruelty confuse me again. Sometimes silence isn't peace, it's strategy. 2 months later, I lost my job. Someone leaked private conversations, cherry-picked emails that suggested I'd misused client data. My boss called it a conflict of interest. I called it what it was, retaliation. I packed my life into 2 suitcases. No savings. No apology. I almost flew home. Almost. But then Dr. Samuel Reeves, the compliance officer who once gave a guest lecture at our firm, called me out of the blue. Said he'd heard what happened. You can rebuild your name, he said, or you can redefine it. So I learned. Cybersecurity. Forensics. Data ethics. I practiced retrieving deleted files like I was recovering bone fragments. I taught myself how to hear the lie before it left someone's lips. I learned to fight without shouting. The glass was empty before I knew it. I set it down and opened the latest file. I didn't expect to freeze. But I did. A laugh. Familiar. Warm. Cutting. I hit rewind. Rewind 5 seconds, I said aloud. The software obeyed. There it was. A mirror. My ex-fiancé was at that table. In the background. Clear as ever. She still doesn't know her place. I stared at the screen like it had betrayed me. My hand moved on its own, back to the bracelet cam file. Same laugh. This wasn't just business anymore. It never had been. Amir was now Kareem's liaison in Dubai. Which meant the very man who discarded me had helped build the network I was now assigned to dismantle. He had no idea I was still watching. But I heard something else this time. Between the arrogance and amusement, Amir had slipped up. Spoke of internal asset transfers that didn't align with public filings. He thought he was bragging. He was actually exposing Kareem. I leaned in, volume up. The consultant package includes the vault split from Martinez. But it's not reported to the board yet. He chuckled. She'll never know. But I did. And that meant one thing. You've just handed me your empire, I whispered. The screen glowed in the dark as I opened a new draft email. To Sheikh Abdullah himself. Monday started like any other, at least on the surface. Layla walked into Martinez Global with the same polished stride, black slacks crisp, her blouse a soft navy that blended rather than called attention. But beneath that careful composure, every glance, every gesture was logged. She scanned her surroundings with the precision of someone who knew danger rarely rang the doorbell. It sat across the table smiling. Evelyn Ross stood near reception. No words. Just a subtle nod. A signal Layla had come to understand. Proceed. She took the elevator to the 32nd floor, alone, listening only to the hum of corporate machinery and the small voice in her head that whispered, keep moving. Her desk greeted her with a blinking cursor and a new deck from Kareem titled Q4 Strategic Synergies. Layla opened the file. Something twitched in her chest. The numbers weren't just off, they were carefully tilted. Weighted. She dragged the slides into a separate folder and typed a quiet message to James Patel, check the creation timestamps. And any metadata. Something's been baked in here. She hit send. The trap was warming. At 11:36 a.m., Kareem strolled past her workstation, phone to his ear, eyes gleaming. His voice wasn't loud, but the acoustics of glass offices made arrogance contagious. Yeah, I pulled everything from their archive. Total goldmine, he told his brother, unaware the line carried into the hallway. Layla reached into her bag and tapped her backup phone, disguised under a productivity widget. The call recorded under the name Daily Brief as he chuckled, they kept everything unencrypted. It was like walking into an unlocked vault. Her expression didn't shift. But in her mind, a match was struck. They think they're ahead. I'm already in their rear view. By late afternoon, fate dropped another gift. An email pinged in. Subject line, Arabic script. Sent by Kareem. Meant for someone else. She opened it. Inside, a thread, Navarro's vault. Timeline to replace her before Q1. She inhaled slowly, translated every word with careful detachment, encrypted it, and forwarded it to Evelyn with the subject, "Now we have intent." That night, while the city's skyline blinked like circuitry, James called. "You're not going to like this," he said. There've been login attempts into the internal system using Richard's credentials. Layla's heart didn't race. It dropped. The ones I decommissioned last winter? Exactly. And they're tied to access logs near your department. Someone was setting her up. Evelyn met her in the parking garage under the building. No cameras. Just sodium light and quiet fury. "They're prepping your exit," Evelyn said. "Soft leak, quiet investigation, then you're done." Layla nodded. "Then let's give them a reason to feel confident." She planted a fresh data set in her weekly report, just one slide with fictional metrics that looked too polished not to use. If Kareem's team bit, the fingerprints would trace back like a ribbon. When they chase you, she thought, make sure they're following a trail you designed. Back home, hours past dark, Layla poured tea and rewatched the dinner audio on low volume. Her eyes were half-lidded until a voice cut through her like cold water. Kareem, laughing, said in Arabic, "Her father was a coward. Must be genetic." Layla stood still. One hand gripped the countertop. Her jaw tightened, pulse screaming under still skin. She almost deleted every file. Almost let the emotion drown her plans. But then came the voice of Dr. Samuel Reeves in her mind, steady as always, "Use your anger. Don't let it use you." She took a breath, opened a blank folder, titled it Failsafe. Every damning file, every audio clip, was loaded and encrypted with a countdown. If she didn't check in every 2 days, it would send directly to Sheikh Abdullah. Insurance. And warning. Her hand trembled for a different reason when she scrolled through her contacts. Mara Navarro. Her sister. She hadn't called her in 3 years. She hit dial. 1 ring. 2. Layla? She couldn't speak. Her breath caught in her chest like a bird against glass. She ended the call. Sometimes silence was armor. Sometimes it was regret. Her phone vibrated again. This time, an unknown number. Message, "We need to talk. Before he destroys us both." Signed, Richard. The message was short and signed, and to the point. "We need to talk. Before he destroys us both." Layla stared at the screen. No number, just digits. She traced it through her burner tracing app. Richard. She hadn't spoken to him in over a year. The man who once sat like a father figure in boardrooms now came crawling out from the shadows. She chose a rooftop cafe near Martinez HQ, late enough to catch the noon light but early enough to leave room for maneuvering. Crowds gave her safety. Noise gave her cover. Richard arrived 15 minutes late. He looked thinner, his hair grayer, stress hanging on him like an ill-fitted suit. He didn't smile. Just sat down and avoided her eyes. "I used the access codes," he said before the coffee even landed. "Kareem told me to. Said you were withholding key financials. That you were hiding something." Layla didn't blink. "And you believed him?" "I was convinced. Manipulated. He showed me selective documents. Said you were dangerous. To the firm. To everyone. She tilted her head. And you decided to break protocol. For him. He nodded, shame turning his voice hollow. I didn't know the full picture. Layla leaned back, arms folded. She didn't bother correcting him. She just listened. She needed every lie to finish spilling from his mouth before she struck. Richard's breath hitched. I'm sorry. That word. So small. So useless. I don't want to be part of this anymore. Layla's silence was a knife. Let him bleed on his own words. He glanced away. There's something else you should know. Her heart paused, then beat again. She waited. In Dubai back then. The legal mess. She nodded once, curt. The one that nearly ended my visa. Got me flagged. I pulled you out of that. Risked a lot. My own ties, my own credentials. I buried that scandal for you. There it was. Debt. I never asked you to, she said. No, but I did. Because I believed in you. And now? Richard's lips trembled. Now I'm stuck. Kareem offered me money. My daughter, she's sick. Her treatment isn't covered. I needed it. I didn't know who else to turn to. Layla's expression didn't change. But inside, something caved. Not for Richard. For the girl who'd grown up thinking allies were permanent. You think saving me once gives you permission to ruin me now? Her voice cut like glass. He opened his mouth. Closed it again. I'm not here for apologies, she said. I'm here for leverage. Richard froze. She pulled her phone from her coat pocket, opened the voice memo app, and played back the clip, his admission. You go down with him, or you help take him out. His hands trembled. You recorded me? Of course. He looked away, ashamed but cornered. I want every communication between you and Kareem. Messages, emails, encrypted files. Everything. Now. His fingers fumbled over his laptop bag. He slid a flash drive across the table. I backed it up. I was scared. Layla took it without comment. She uploaded the contents to her secure cloud, watching the percentage tick up. When it hit 100%, she stood. She didn't thank him. She didn't look back. That evening, Layla sat in her apartment, lights low, laptop glowing. We're going to the SEC, she told Evelyn over secure call. Evelyn, sharp and unwavering, began compiling legal documentation. Whistleblower protections. Chain of custody metadata. Internal timestamps. Layla's part was cleaner, cold, strategic. She drafted a whistleblower complaint under NDA coverage. Data theft. Insider trading. Financial fraud. Each point layered, cross-referenced, timed. I'm submitting it the morning of Kareem's investor pitch, she said. Evelyn smirked through the screen. Now that's poetic. Layla clicked through folders, packaging evidence, encrypting, timestamping. Somewhere between silence and action, her breath stilled. She stared at her screen. Have you ever had to choose between justice and loyalty? She whispered aloud, to no one. Her cursor hovered. Click. Send. The progress bar moved like molasses, inching to conclusion. Then her phone buzzed. A voicemail. Unknown number. She pressed play. Sheikh Abdullah will see you tomorrow. Come alone. The morning sun slanted through the high-rise windows of Al-Haddad Global's Houston headquarters, throwing long shadows across the gleaming boardroom table. Layla walked in first, heels muted against the thick carpet, followed by two Martinez legal observers and a staffer carrying a slim case. Cameras were already stationed in the back of the room under the guise of an investor transparency initiative. Investor sat tight-lipped, arms folded, eyes darting from Layla to Kareem Al-Haddad, who stood at the far end of the room with practiced confidence and a tight smile. Then Omar Farouk entered and took his seat quietly behind Kareem, offering Layla a slight nod. A small gesture, but it landed like thunder. She opened her laptop without a word and connected to the central display. The screen came to life, dates, names, file hashes. Layla spoke with clarity, every syllable deliberate. She played the first recording. Kareem's voice filled the room. Pull the files, she won't even know. A gasp. A rustle of movement. Layla didn't pause. And here, she said, clicking to a chain of internal emails. Authorization from Kareem himself. Buried under executive alias routing. Cross-verified with network logs from Martinez IT. Kareem turned pale. He tried to pivot, switching to Arabic, voice low, urgent, "You were always part of us." Layla's face didn't move. "I knew you the day you taught me what you meant by part of us." Gasps turned to murmurs. Every eye on her. She looked directly into the lens of one of the cameras. Have you ever heard someone apologize only after they thought they were untouchable? The silence was thick, electric. Then came the rustle of silk as Ayla Al-Haddad stood. Regal, commanding, she addressed the room in a tone somewhere between remorse and control. "My son has failed you. He has betrayed the trust of this institution and embarrassed our family. I apologize, not just as his mother, but as the voice of Al-Haddad legacy." Layla remained still. Her mother's words echoed from decades ago, "Our name suffers when you disobey." She looked Ayla in the eye. "Forgiveness is not a reset," she said calmly. "It's not permission to rewrite history." The board shifted, visibly uncomfortable. Some nodded. Others simply blinked. Kareem opened his mouth to speak, but no one was listening anymore. That afternoon, the news exploded. Every major outlet carried the same banner: Al-Haddad CEO accused of fraud, ousted by emergency vote. Kareem's assets were frozen pending investigation. Layla, meanwhile, received a single-line text from Evelyn Ross: "Welcome to the board." Standing alone in the same boardroom, Layla gazed at her reflection in the window. It wasn't the same woman who once walked into a client dinner hoping to be invisible. Now she was something else entirely. Later that night, in the quiet of her home office, Layla declined the offer from Sheikh Abdullah. It was typed in formal language, generous beyond reason, but she didn't even blink. Her cursor hovered over the reply button. "Thank you. I must follow a different path." She pulled out her notebook and wrote across a fresh page, "The strongest thing a woman can say is, I am for myself." There was a knock at the door, James Patel with one final data drive in hand. They shared a quiet smile before he left. By midnight, Nadia Carter had already sent a draft proposal for a new foundation, the Mara Navarro Initiative for Equity. Layla lit a small candle beside her sister's photo and placed the document beside it. Then, just before shutting her laptop, a new email popped in. No sender. No subject. Just one line. "You changed the rules. Now watch them change the game."